I'm Evan Carter, and it all started because of a lakeside gate in Pine Hollow, Michigan. When I installed that gate to protect my private property near Lake Michigan, I had no idea it would expose a mess of corruption, embezzlement, and crime that would shake this neighborhood. Who'd have thought the road to justice would begin with a little lock? I still remember the moment my peace vanished. It was a sunny Tuesday afternoon, and I was working from home when the doorbell rang. Expecting no one, I peeked through the peephole and saw Lydia Harper, the Pine Hollow HOA president, standing there, arms crossed, her pearl necklace glinting. She tapped her foot incessantly, clearly impatient. I took a deep breath, opened the door, and tried to keep my tone friendly. "Hi Lydia, what's up?" She didn't bother with pleasantries. "The board held an emergency meeting last night about your new gate," her voice sharp as a blade. "It's blocking the lakeside path people have used for decades." I blinked, genuinely surprised. "Wait, that path's on my land. I checked the deed when I bought the place." Lydia smirked, her eyes icy. "That's why I'm here. The board voted unanimously. You need to hand over the key immediately. Residents are complaining about a 10-minute detour to the lake." My stomach tightened. I'd put up the gate because for 3 weekends straight, I'd found beer cans and trash in my yard. People treated my land like a public park. "Lydia, I'm sorry, but I checked with the county. The map shows that path is my private property, not a public easement," I replied, trying to stay calm despite our tense history making me uneasy. Lydia's face flushed. "That path's been used since before you were born. There's something called prescriptive rights." I shook my head. "I talked to a lawyer, no easements recorded on my title." She narrowed her eyes, stepping closer. "Listen, Evan, the HOA has ways to make things very uncomfortable for you." I shut the door, heart pounding, not knowing I'd just ignited a war. After closing the door on Lydia Harper, I leaned against the wall, my heart still racing. I knew it wasn't over. She wasn't the type to back down, but at that moment, I just wanted to protect my piece of Pine Hollow, never expecting it would drag my whole family to the front lines. That night, I FaceTimed Clara Carter, my ex-wife. Clara and I split 2 years ago, but we stayed in touch for Sophie, our 10-year-old daughter. Sophie came over on weekends, and I didn't want her caught up in this mess. "Clara, the HOA just demanded my gate key," I said, my voice still tight. "The president threatened trouble if I don't comply." Clara frowned through the screen, her brown hair tied back as usual. "Evan, why do you have to make this a big deal? It's just a gate. If they hassle Sophie when she's there, how are you going to explain it?" I sighed. "I don't want trouble, but it's my land. I've checked the deed. No one has a claim to it." Clara shook her head. "Just be careful. You know how crazy HOAs can get." The next morning, I checked the mailbox and found an envelope from the Pine Hollow HOA. Inside was the first violation notice: "Iron Gate violates community aesthetic standards, $100 daily fine, until removed or key provided." I nearly dropped my coffee mug. $100 a day. Were they kidding? I snapped a photo of the letter, sent it to Clara with a text. "See? They're not messing around." Clara replied instantly. "Evan, don't let this affect Sophie. She doesn't need to see you stressed all the time." Her words hit me hard. Sophie was everything to me. Her smile was why I bought this house, to give her a place to play by the lake, but I couldn't let the HOA walk all over me. I decided to act. First, I double-checked my deed again, line by line, number by number. The property map was clear. The lakeside path sat fully within my boundaries, with no public easement noted. I photographed the map, filed it on my computer. Then I ran to the hardware store, bought a small security camera, and mounted it by the gate, the kind that records day and night. If Lydia and the HOA wanted to play dirty, I'd have proof. That night, the phone rang, unknown number, but I knew who it was. "Evan, this is Lydia." Her voice came through, cold as ice. "You should reconsider. Hand over the key, and this all goes away. Otherwise, the board has ways to make your life very difficult." I gripped the phone. "Lydia, I've told you it's my land. If you want to push this, talk to my lawyer." I hung up, but her threat echoed in my head. This could spiral out of control, but I couldn't back down. The gate wasn't just metal, It was my boundary, Sophie's, the new life I'd built in Pine Hollow. I sat on the couch, staring at the dark lake through the window, wondering if I was ready for what was coming. One thing I knew for sure, Lydia Harper had just awakened something in me she didn't expect. After Lydia Harper's call that night, I knew she wouldn't stop. But I didn't expect them to move so fast. 2 days later, as I finished brewing morning coffee, the doorbell rang again, this time louder, more insistent. I looked through the peephole. Lydia stood there, next to Victor Grayson, the Pine Hollow HOA treasurer, a burly guy with cold round glasses. Both looked ready to break the door down if I didn't open it. I took a deep breath, opened the door, and tried to keep my voice steady. Lydia, Victor, what now? Lydia stepped forward, her heels clicking on the porch. Evan, your time to think is up, she said, her tone cutting. The board's giving you one last chance. Hand over the gate key, or we'll fine you into bankruptcy. Victor nodded, holding a thick stack of papers. That path's been community property for 30 years, you've got no right to block it. I laughed, not out of amusement, but at their audacity. That path's on my land. I showed you the map, Lydia, don't you remember? I stepped inside, grabbed my deed from the table, and flipped to the property map. Here the boundary's clear, no public easement. I've even had a no trespassing sign up for 6 months to establish ownership. Lydia glanced at the map, then sneered. That kind of smile that gave me chills. Your map means nothing. Residents have used that path since before you were born, it's tradition, and you're ruining it. Victor cut in, his voice lower but no less threatening. We've got dozens of complaints. You want the whole neighborhood against you? I shook my head. I don't care who's complaining. It's my land, and I decide. If you want to argue, talk to my lawyer. Lydia stepped closer, so close I could smell her expensive perfume. Listen, Evan, she lowered her voice, you don't know who you're dealing with. We can make you regret this. Hand over the key, and it all ends. I stood still, staring into her eyes. No, if you want to play this game, I'm ready. Victor smirked, like I'd just signed my own sentence. Don't say we didn't warn you, he said, and they turned to leave. Through the window, I saw them whispering, Lydia pulling out her phone to dial someone. I knew they were plotting something. That night I couldn't sleep, replaying their threats. Around 1 a.m., my phone buzzed a security camera alert. I opened the app, and my heart nearly stopped. A figure stood near the gate, holding something glinting in the moonlight. I zoomed in, face unclear, but I'd bet it was one of Lydia's people. Then I heard a clank, a beer can tossed over the gate, rolling across the grass. The camera caught it all. I sat on the couch, hands shaking as I re-watched the video. This wasn't just a dispute anymore, they were getting dirty. I sent the clip to Henry Patel, my lawyer, with a text. They've started, what do we do? Henry replied instantly, keep all evidence. If they keep this up, we'll get the police involved. I looked out at the dark lake through the window, moonlight shimmering on the water. Sophie was coming over this weekend, and I didn't want her to see me worried. But I couldn't let Lydia and Victor win. The gate wasn't just property, it was the line between me and the injustice they were trying to force on me. I turned off my phone, telling myself, fine, if they want to fight, I'll show them I'm not easy to break. After the beer can incident, I knew I couldn't sit still. Lydia Harper and Victor Grayson had declared war, and I needed to prepare for what was coming. But I didn't anticipate how Pine Hollow would start splitting apart over my gate. The next morning, I went out to pick up the can rolling on the grass, a clear message from someone in Lydia's crew. I checked the camera, but the figure from last night wore a hoodie, face hidden. Still, I saved the video. Adding to my growing pile of evidence, as I bent to grab the trash, I heard footsteps on the nearby stone path. Looking up, I saw Margaret Maggie Sullivan, the silver-haired lady, a few houses down, holding a watering can. Morning, Evan, Maggie said. Her voice soft but her eyes curious. I saw Lydia and Victor here yesterday. The gate again? I nodded, giving her a quick rundown of the key demand and the can last night. Maggie frowned, setting the can down. I'm not surprised. Last year they fined me $200 for a bird bath in my yard, said it didn't meet standards. I paid to keep the peace, but now I think they're out of line. I smiled faintly, feeling a hint of alliance. Thanks, Maggie, I just want to protect my land. She nodded, gazing toward the lake. Be careful, Lydia doesn't like losing. Before leaving, she whispered, if you need anything, call me. I've lived here 20 years, I know a thing or two about that HOA. But not everyone was like Maggie. That afternoon, I got a text from the neighborhood group chat I rarely checked. Someone named Brad Kessler, who lived down the street, posted a rant, Evan Carter's ruining Pine Hollow. That selfish gate blocks the lakeside path we've all used forever. Who agrees we need to act? Comments piled up. Yes, I had to walk 15 minutes extra yesterday. The HOA needs to hit him harder. My blood boiled as I read it. They didn't know, or didn't care that the path was mine. I replied, it's private property, not a public path. I have the deed to prove it, but Brad shot back. Your deed doesn't change tradition, you're new here and already stirring trouble. I turned off my phone, not wanting to waste energy arguing online. But the isolation started creeping in. At the grocery store that afternoon, people who usually nodded at me now turned away, whispering. An old lady even pointed, that's the guy blocking the lake path. That night, another envelope from the HOA was in my mailbox. This time a second notice, unapproved gate violates aesthetic rules, $150 daily fine, stacking with the prior violation. Now $250 a day, they wanted to crush me with money. I photographed the letter, sent it to Henry Patel. Henry called back, this is blatant retaliation. Your gate's legal, but they're playing jungle rules. Got any more evidence? I told him about the can and the video. Good, Henry said, keep everything. I'll draft a legal warning for them. But Evan, brace yourself, this'll get worse before it gets better. I nodded over the phone, though inside I wasn't sure how ready I was. Sophie was coming tomorrow, and I didn't want her to see me like this. That night, I sat on the couch, staring at Lake Michigan shimmering under the moon. My phone buzzed, another camera alert. I opened the app, and saw two figures near the gate, not doing anything, just watching. I zoomed in, faces unclear, but Lydia's stance, arms crossed, foot tapping was unmistakable. I recorded it, heart pounding. They were stalking me. I texted Clara, the HOA's escalating. I'll keep Sophie safe, but I'm not backing down. Clara replied, watch yourself, Evan. Don't let them win. I turned off my phone, telling myself to toughen up. Maggie was with me, but Brad and his crowd weren't. Pine Hollow had split, and I was in the middle. The gate wasn't just property anymore, it was the symbol of a fight I couldn't lose. After seeing Lydia, and that second figure lurking by my gate that night, I couldn't sleep. Pine Hollow was divided, with Maggie Sullivan on my side, and Brad Kessler leading the mob against me. But I didn't expect things to escalate this fast, or that my gate would become a literal battlefield. The next morning, Sophie arrived for the weekend. I tried to act normal, making pancakes and telling her stories about fish in Lake Michigan, but my mind was on those two figures from the camera. I checked the security app, nothing new, the lock still intact. You okay, Dad? Sophie asked, holding her plate, her big brown eyes on me. I forced a smile. Fine, sweetie, just busy with some stuff. I didn't want her worried, but the unease weighed on me. That evening, Clara picked Sophie up. Before they left, Clara grabbed my hand. Evan, you look stressed. How's the HOA thing? I told her about the stalking last night, and the $250 daily fines. She frowned. They're nuts, but don't let Sophie get caught up in this, okay? I nodded, promising to keep her safe. After they left, I sat on the couch, checked the camera again, still quiet. I was about to head to bed when my phone buzzed. A security alert at 11:30 p.m., I opened the app, and my heart stopped. 3 figures stood by the gate, under the dim security light. I zoomed in. Lydia Harper, arms crossed as always. Victor Grayson, glasses glinting, and a third guy, I recognized as Neil Baxter, the HOA's facilities manager, holding something shiny, bolt cutters. They weren't just watching anymore, they were here to destroy. I hit record, hands shaking, then dialed 911, someone's trying to break my gate. I told the dispatcher, voice cracking. They've got bolt cutters, please come now. I threw on a jacket, ran downstairs, hearing metal clanging in the distance. Through the window, I saw Neil bending over the lock, Lydia and Victor keeping watch. I didn't dare go out alone, they looked too dangerous. Minutes later, headlights swept the yard, a police car pulled up, the doorbell rang, and I opened it to Danny Brooks, an old high school buddy, now a Pine Hollow cop, flashlight in hand. "Evan, you called about trespassing?" Danny asked, calm but serious. I nodded, handed him my phone with the live video. "That's Lydia Harper, Victor Grayson, and Neil Baxter, HOA people. They're trying to cut my lock." Danny watched, frowning. "Let's go check it out." We circled to the back gate, they were gone, fled at the siren. But my lock was scratched deep, one side bent like it nearly snapped. Danny swept his flashlight around, spotting footprints in the soft dirt by the fence. "This is vandalism of private property," he said, pulling out a notepad. "You want to report it?" I nodded fast. "Yes, Danny, I want this on record." As we stood there, a silver SUV screeched up, stopping a few yards away. Lydia stepped out, Victor watching from inside. "Officer, thank you for coming," she called, her voice syrupy fake. "We were just checking on community property, Evan's illegally blocking." I nearly laughed at her nerve, but Danny held up a hand to stop me. "Miss Harper," Danny said, voice firm, "county records show this is private land. Video shows you and two others trying to cut the lock. That's trespassing and vandalism. I suggest you talk to a lawyer before doing anything else that could be illegal." Lydia's face stiffened, but she forced a smile. "This is an internal HOA matter, not police business. Michigan state law trumps HOA rules," Danny cut in. "If you come back here after hours, I'll arrest you for trespassing." "Clear." Lydia didn't answer, just turned back to the car. Victor started the engine, and they sped off. Danny turned to me. "Keep that camera running 24/7, Evan. If they return, call me, I'll file this report." I nodded, feeling both relieved and tense. "Thanks, Danny. I didn't think it'd come to this." He clapped my shoulder. "You're up against some stubborn folks. Stay cool, we'll sort it out." As the cop car left, I stood by the gate, the scratched lock gleaming in the moonlight. I texted Henry Patel. "They just tried to break the gate. Police came, now what?" Henry replied, "Send me the video, we can sue for vandalism." "Hold steady, Evan." I turned off my phone, staring at the quiet lake. Sophie had left hours ago, and now cops were at my house. Lydia wanted war, and I had no choice but to fight back. But this time, I had evidence, and Danny on my side. After that night when Lydia, Victor, and Neil tried to cut my lock and Danny Brooks showed up, I thought they'd back off. I was wrong. It was just the start of a fiercer assault from the Pine Hollow HOA. They didn't just want the key anymore, they wanted to strangle me. The next morning, I checked the gate. The lock was scratched but holding. I took close-up photos, sent them to Henry Patel, with last night's video. Henry called back fast. "Evan, this is clear vandalism. With this evidence, we can sue. Keep everything. I'm drafting a legal letter to the HOA." I felt a bit of relief, but a bad feeling lingered. "Thanks, Henry, but I don't think they'll stop." I was right. That afternoon, as I replaced the lock with a sturdier one, I heard a car stop out front. Looking up, I saw a delivery guy stuff an envelope in my mailbox. I ran out and opened it. 3 violation notices from the HOA, each a punch to the face. First, gate paint color unapproved, $150/day fine. Second, gate height exceeds regulations, $150/day fine. Third, excessive water use for yard, $100/day fine. Total $400 a day, plus the prior $250, $650 daily. I stood frozen, hands trembling with the papers. They weren't just fining me, they wanted me broke. I photographed each one, sent them to Henry. They're insane, I texted. My gate's legal, and I haven't watered my yard this week. Henry replied, this is illegal retaliation, I'll add it to the lawsuit. Stay calm, Evan. Calm, how, when I was being hit with nearly $700 a day, just for not giving up the key. That night, my phone rang unknown number. I answered, and Lydia's voice came through. Frigid. Evan, seen the notices. That's just the start, hand over the key, and it all disappears. I gripped the phone. Lydia, you know that land's mine. These fines are ridiculous. She chuckled, that chilling laugh again. Ridiculous or not, it doesn't matter, we have ways to bring you to your knees. You're a software engineer, right? Your company won't like hearing about this trouble. I froze. She was threatening my job. You wouldn't dare, I said, voice breaking. Oh, you'll see, Lydia replied. My husband golfs with some people at your firm. One call's all it takes. Think hard, Evan, how much is that gate worth to you? She hung up, leaving me sitting there, mind spinning. My job was what kept me steady after the divorce. If I lost it, I didn't know how I'd manage for Sophie. I called Clara right away. The HOA just threatened my job, I said, trying to sound calm. Clara sighed over the phone. Evan, they're playing dirty for real. Sophie asked today why you seemed sad, you know? I don't want you fighting them anymore. What if they do something worse? I clenched my fist. Clara, I can't let them win. If I give in, they'll keep bullying everyone. I have evidence, I'm fighting to the end. Clara went quiet, then said, then be careful. Don't let Sophie get hurt. I promised her, but after hanging up, I felt surrounded. I couldn't sleep that night. Lydia's threat looping in my head. Early morning my phone buzzed, camera alert at 5 a.m. I opened the app, no one at the gate, but a paper taped to it. I ran out, tore it off, hand over the key, or lose everything. Handwritten, sloppy, but I knew who sent it. I photographed the note, added it to my evidence stash, then I called Henry. They taped a threat to my gate, I said, voice hoarse, and Lydia said she'd ruin my job. Henry's tone darkened, this is harassment and extortion, send me the photo now, we'll get police involved if needed. You okay? I sighed. Not really, but I'm not quitting. I installed another camera, wider angle, facing the street. If they came back, I'd catch their faces. Then I texted Clara, I'll protect Sophie, but I have to keep going. They can't win like this. Clara replied, I get it, but Evan, don't let them destroy you. I stood by the gate, the new lock gleaming in the morning sun, $650 a day. That number was a knife to my throat. But the job threat scared me more. I thought of Sophie, her smile when she played by the lake. The gate wasn't just metal anymore, it was the line between me and the injustice Lydia was forcing on me. I went back inside, opened my laptop, and started an email to my boss. I needed to warn him, just in case Lydia followed through. The fight wasn't just about land now, it was about my life. After the threatening note on my gate, and Lydia's warning about my job, I knew I couldn't sit back and wait for their next move. The $650 daily fines from the Pine Hollow HOA were a blade at my neck, but I wasn't handing over the key, not after all they'd done. I needed bigger evidence, something to turn the tables, and that day, I found it. Early morning, I emailed my boss, briefly explaining the HOA trouble and that someone might contact him to pressure me. I don't want you caught off guard, I wrote, then hit send, hoping he'd understand. After that, I called Henry Patel. Henry, I need to be dead sure about my land rights. I want to check the county office. Henry agreed instantly. Good, get official copies of the records, it'll be your shield, send me everything you find. I drove to the county office, 20 minutes from Pine Hollow, bringing my property map and deed. Inside, the air was cool, smelling of old paper. I approached the counter, meeting a middle-aged woman, with glasses, her name tag reading Ellen Travis. Hi, I said, handing over my papers. I need to confirm my property boundaries, and check for public easements. I'm in a dispute with the Pine Hollow HOA. Ellen glanced at the documents, then looked up, eyes sharp. Pine Hollow, huh? She lowered her voice, glancing around like someone might overhear. You're not the first to come here about them. What's going on? I gave her the short version, the gate, the key demands, the vandalism. Ellen nodded, typing into her computer. Let me see, but fair warning, that HOA's got a messy history. She printed a stack of papers, handing me an official property map copy. Here, she pointed to the boundary line. Your land runs to the lake shore, no easements or rights of way recorded. You own it outright, I exhaled, but Ellen wasn't done. In 2017, the Pine Hollow HOA filed to rezone some lakeside lots as community property. Got denied for lack of legal grounds. They weren't happy, I blinked. Rezone, they wanted to take people's land. Ellen shrugged, her tone dry. They called it community improvement. I'd bet your gate's messing with some plan of theirs. She handed me another sheet, my land's tax history, clean except for my name. Keep these, if they sue, you've got enough to win. Driving back, my mind raced. If the HOA tried to grab lakeside land before, this wasn't just about a path, something bigger was at play. I stopped at Maggie Sullivan's house, knocked. Maggie opened the door, apron dusted with flour, clearly baking. Evan, come in, she said, wiping her hands. I told her about the county trip, and Ellen's info. Maggie sat down, frowning. I remember 2017, they raised dues right after, said it was for lakeside path maintenance, but look around, nothing's been fixed. I furrowed my brow. Raised dues? How often? Maggie counted on her fingers. 3 times in 5 years, first $50, then $75, then $100 per quarter. Said they needed cash to keep the path nice, but I've never seen them do more than mow it a few times. I did quick math, hundreds of residents, each paying hundreds extra yearly. That's a ton of money, Maggie. Where'd it go? Maggie shrugged. No idea, they send vague summaries, no details. I asked at an HOA meeting once, but Lydia told me not to worry about things that aren't my business. I stood, feeling like I'd struck dark gold. If they're collecting cash for nothing, that's embezzlement, right? Maggie nodded slowly. Could be, you should ask someone who knows finance. Back home, I opened my laptop, emailed Henry, with the county docs and my notes from Maggie. Henry, I think the HOA's pocketing resident money for fake projects. Can we investigate? Henry replied, brilliant. If true, this is a knockout punch. I'll contact a forensic accountant. Keep the evidence, we're getting close. That night, I sat on the couch, gazing at Lake Michigan sparkling outside. My phone buzzed, camera alert. I opened the app, one figure stood far from the gate, just watching. I zoomed in, face unclear, but the tall lanky build looked like Victor. I recorded it, heart racing. They were still watching me, but now I had something they didn't expect, a trail of corruption. I texted Clara, I found something big, the HOA might be embezzling money. Clara replied, Evan, be careful, if it's true they won't let it slide. I knew she was right, but I also knew I couldn't stop. The gate wasn't just a personal fight anymore, it was the key to unlocking Pine Hollow's dark secrets. I turned off the lights, staring at the scratched lock outside the gate through the window. Fine, Lydia, I whispered. Go ahead and try, I'll make you pay. After spotting signs of corruption from Maggie's words and Ellen Travis's documents, I felt like I was holding a bomb. The Pine Hollow HOA didn't just want my gate key, they might be stealing from the whole neighborhood. But before I could dig deeper, Lydia Harper struck again, an emergency community meeting to turn me into public enemy number 1. The next morning, I opened the neighborhood chat and saw Lydia's post, emergency meeting tonight, 7 p.m., community center. Evan Carter's blocking the historic lakeside path, damaging Pine Hollow's value. All residents must attend. Attached was a photo of my gate, a red circle scribbled around the lock, captioned, "This selfish act is ruining our community." Below were 30 comments, mostly from people I'd never met, calling me the new troublemaker, that selfish jerk. Brad Kessler added, "Time for the HOA to hit hard." I read it, hands shaking with anger. They twisted everything, painting me as the villain for protecting my own land. I called Henry Patel, they're holding a meeting to gang up on me. I said, voice hoarse, what do I do? Henry replied, go, bring the county docs and vandalism videos. We'll turn it around, I'll come with you. That afternoon, I texted Maggie Sullivan, you going to the meeting? I need someone who gets it. Maggie replied, I'll be there, Evan. I'm sick of Lydia's bullying. I also messaged Danny Brooks, they're meeting tonight to attack me. Can you come? I've got video of them breaking my gate. Danny responded, I'll stop by, stay cool, Evan. At 7 p.m., Butsamanhan, I walked into the Pine Hollow Community Center with Henry holding the county papers and my phone with the videos. Over 60 residents filled the room, the air thick with tension. Lydia stood at the podium, mic in hand, her pearl necklace gleaming as always. Brad Kessler sat up front, clapping as she started. Thank you all for coming, Lydia said, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. We're here for a serious issue. Evan Carter has blocked the lakeside path generations of Pine Hollow have used. This act hurts our neighborhood's value and community spirit. The crowd murmured, some pointing at me. Brad stood up, I had to detour 15 minutes to the lake yesterday. Who does he think he is, ruining tradition? I started to reply, but Henry put a hand on my shoulder, whispering. Wait, Lydia went on. The board proposes further fines and demands the gate's immediate removal. Who's in favor? Before the crowd could raise hands, Maggie stood, her voice shaky but firm. Hold on, I've lived here 20 years, I've never seen proof that path is public. Lydia, got any evidence? The room went quiet, all eyes on her. Lydia frowned. Margaret, this isn't the time to stir trouble. That path is tradition, everyone knows it. Tradition isn't law, I said, standing, my voice echoing. I've got the county map, the path's entirely on my land, no public easement. I held up the papers Ellen gave me, and Henry stepped forward, taking them. I'm Carter's lawyer, Henry said, voice steely. This meeting violates HOA rules, no 2-week notice, so any decisions tonight are void. The crowd buzzed. An old lady asked, Lydia, why'd you say it's public? Lydia's face reddened, slamming the podium. This is an internal matter, Carter's wrecking our community. Then the door opened, and Danny Brooks walked in, his police uniform peeking from under his jacket. He waved lightly, then approached me. I've got something everyone should see, Danny said, calm but commanding. I handed Danny my phone, and he hooked it to the room's projector. The vandalism video played. Lydia Victor, kneel with bolt cutters at my gate. The crowd gasped. This is your HOA president, Danny said. Caught vandalizing private property. I'm investigating, and I'd advise Miss Harper not to do anything else until this is cleared up. The room erupted in shouts. Lydia, you said he was the vandal, one yelled. Why were you cutting his lock? Another demanded. Lydia slammed the mic on the podium. Quiet, it's a misunderstanding, we were just checking community property. Henry cut in private property, Miss Harper. County confirmed, your fines are illegal retaliation. Brad jumped up, face flushed, but that path's ours. I shot back, no, it's mine, and if you've been charged to maintain it, ask Lydia where the money went. The crowd turned to her, eyes narrowing. Lydia stammered, meeting adjourned. She grabbed her papers and bolted out, Victor trailing behind. Danny patted my shoulder, good job. Keep the cameras rolling, I'll follow this up. Maggie approached, smiling. Told you they hate losing, Henry whispered. We just scored big, now find the embezzlement proof, they'll collapse. I left the meeting, heart pounding but relieved. A few people nodded at me, though Brad's crew still glared. Pine Hollow was shaken, and I knew Lydia wouldn't let it rest, but now, the neighborhood was asking questions. The gate wasn't just my fight anymore, it was the spark for the truth. After that emergency meeting at the Pine Hollow Community Center, I thought Lydia Harper might back off once the neighborhood saw the video of her breaking my gate, but I underestimated her, and Victor Grayson's stubbornness. They didn't stop, they took it to a new level, and this time I felt truly surrounded. The next morning, I checked the gate. The lock was intact, but red paint splattered across the iron, scrawled with hand over the key. I stood frozen, the sharp paint stench hitting me. This wasn't a beer can toss anymore, it was blatant vandalism. I snapped photos, recorded video, then checked the camera app. Last night's footage showed two figures, one tall and lanky like Victor, spraying paint at 3 a.m. I sent it to Henry Patel and Danny Brooks. They just painted my gate, I texted Henry. More evidence, Henry replied, send me everything. We'll add it to the lawsuit, vandalism and harassment, Danny texted, I'll come check it out. Leave the scene as is. While waiting I called Clara. They spray painted the gate red last night, I said, voice tight. Clara sighed over the phone. Evan, they've lost it. Sophie's coming tomorrow, I don't want her seeing this. I clenched my fist, I'll handle it before she gets here, but Clara, I can't let them win. Clara went quiet for a moment. I know you're right, but I'm scared, what's next? I had no answer, but I promised I'll keep Sophie safe. After hanging up, I stood staring at the gate, the red words like a wound on my property. Danny arrived soon after, photographing the scene, collecting paint samples. This is next-level vandalism, he said, jotting notes. I'll trace who bought this paint. Pine Hollow's got few stores. Before I could relax, that evening I heard a snap outside. I ran out, the power line to my street view camera was cut, the feed black. I checked the app, footage showed a figure snipping the wire at 8 p.m., face hidden. I called Danny again. They just cut my camera wire. Danny replied, I'll send a patrol tonight. Got a backup camera? I didn't, but I raced to the garage, grabbed an old one and rigged it to a tree near the gate, facing the road. The next morning, my phone rang, unknown number. I answered, and Victor's low, menacing voice came through. Evan, you like stirring trouble, huh? That meeting was a big mistake. Hand over the key, or you're out of a job. I'm not kidding. I went cold. Victor, you can't scare me. I've got proof you're vandalizing. The police are involved. He chuckled. Let's see who's faster. Lydia knows people at your company. You're done. He hung up, leaving me sitting there, hands trembling. I called my boss right away, explaining the threat. He frowned over the video call. Evan, I trust you, but if they contact us, I'll have to tell HR. Keep your evidence, I nodded, feeling the ground crumbling. Then I texted Clara, Victor just threatened my job. I need you to trust me. Clara replied. Evan, I'm terrified, but if you've got proof, I'm with you. Don't let them hurt Sophie. I decided to hire a private security guard for a week, a big guy named Mike, stationed at the gate each night. I'll keep watch, Mike said, voice steady. I also added 2 more cameras, one inside, one facing the main road. If Lydia and Victor wanted to play dirty, I'd catch their faces. That night, Mike texted, silver SUV drove by twice, slow. Didn't stop, but I got the plate. I sent the plate to Danny, that's Victor's, he confirmed. They're scouting, I'll up patrols. That night, I didn't sleep, staring out the window. Sophie was coming in the morning, and I had to clean the paint before she saw it. At dawn I went out with a can of white paint, covering the red scrawl, hands shaking with anger and exhaustion. When I finished, I stood back. The gate was clean, but I knew the real wound wouldn't fade easily. Clara arrived with Sophie at 9 a.m. Sophie ran to hug me, beaming. Dad, the gate looks great. I forced a smile, glancing at Clara. She stepped close, whispering, Evan, you look wrecked, but I trust you fight, for Sophie too. I nodded, feeling a surge of strength. Lydia and Victor wanted to break me, but now I had Clara by my side. The gate wasn't just a fight anymore, it was my stand that I wouldn't kneel. After painting over the red scrawl, and gaining Clara's support, I felt a renewed strength. But the pressure from Lydia Harper and Victor Grayson didn't ease vandalism, job threats, and the shadow of $650 daily fines still loomed. I knew I needed more allies, and solid evidence to take them down. And that day, I got both. The next morning, Sophie played in the yard with a ball I'd bought her, while I sat with Clara on the porch, sipping coffee. Evan, I don't like you fighting alone, Clara said. Eyes on Sophie, they're dirty, you need help. I nodded, I know. Maggie's with me, but I need someone who gets money. If they're embezzling like I suspect, there's a trail. Just then, I heard a car engine. A man, about 40, short black hair, stepped out of an old Toyota parked across the street. He waved, the first time I'd seen him start a conversation. Hey, I'm Tom Nguyen, he said, voice low. Heard about the meeting last night, you okay? I invited Tom over, giving him the rundown on the gate, vandalism, and my suspicions about HOA maintenance fees. Tom frowned. I'm a freelance accountant. I've noticed for years Pine Hollow doesn't send detailed financials, just vague summaries. Last time they raised dues $100 a quarter, saying it was for the lakeside path. I asked Lydia for specifics. She told me don't meddle. I blinked. Tom, you think they're hiding something? He nodded. Could be. If you've got initial evidence, I'll help analyze it. I called Maggie Sullivan right away. Maggie, I've got a finance guy. Tom Nguyen, can you come over? We need to track where the maintenance fees went. Maggie arrived in 15 minutes, carrying an old box of documents. These are dues receipts I've kept for 5 years, she said, setting it on the kitchen table. Can't believe I held on to this stuff, but it's useful now. Tom, Maggie, and I sat down, opening my laptop and spreading out receipts. Maggie pointed to one from 2019. Here $50 increase, path maintenance. Tom flipped ahead. 2021, another $75, 2023, $100 more. I did quick math. Over 200 residents, each paying an extra $225 a year across 3 hikes, that's tens of thousands. Tom nodded, opening his computer. Plus regular dues. If they're collecting and not spending, where's the money? I recalled Ellen Travis's 2017 rezoning story. Ellen at the county said, the HOA tried to claim lakeside lots, could this money tie in? Tom frowned. Let me see the latest summary. He opened an HOA email, printing the 2023 report. One line froze us all. Pine Lake Services maintenance costs, $150,000. Maggie shook her head. What's Pine Lake Services? I've never seen them do anything here. Tom typed fast, searching Google and Michigan's business database. No company named Pine Lake Services, registered in this state. No website, no address, nothing. My heart raced. So where'd the $150,000 go? Tom looked at me. Could be a shell company, classic embezzlement move. They set up a fake entity, funnel money in, then pull it to personal accounts. Maggie slapped the table. Lydia and Victor, I bet they're behind it. They always dodged when I asked about money. I nodded. If true, this is the knockout Henry mentioned, but we need harder proof. Tom grinned. Give me a few days, I've got a bank contact. If Pine Lake Services has transactions, I'll find them. I sent the docs to Henry Patel right away. Henry, big lid, $150,000 to a shell company. Tom's digging deeper. Henry replied, perfect, if we prove it we can go to the cops and sue. Keep it up. I also texted Danny Brooks, HOA might have embezzled $150,000 via Pine Lake Services, can you check? Danny responded, I'll ask the Financial Crimes Unit, stay safe Evan. That night, Sophie slept over, and Clara stayed to support me. After Sophie was out, Clara pulled me onto the porch. Evan, if they're really embezzling, what'll they do when they're exposed? I stared at Lake Michigan's shimmer. They'll hit harder, but now I've got Tom and Maggie, I'm not alone. Clara took my hand, and me. Fight, but don't let them hurt you or Sophie. Late that night, my phone buzzed, camera alert. I opened the app. Victor's silver SUV parked 50 meters from the gate, lights off, no one stepping out. I recorded it, heart pounding. Mike, my hired guard, texted saw the car. They're just sitting, I'll watch, I replied. Thanks Mike, log everything. I turned off my phone, watching Clara sleep on the couch. Sophie rested in her room, dreaming of the lake. The gate wasn't just my fight now, it was the gateway to Pine Hollow's truth. With Tom and Maggie, I had a team. With that $150,000, I had a weapon. Lydia and Victor didn't know they'd just roused a whole alliance. After uncovering Pine Lake Services as a shell company, with $150,000 vanished, I knew I'd hit a dark gold mine. My alliance with Tom Doan and Maggie Sullivan was now my strongest weapon, but we needed hard proof, something to crush Lydia Harper and Victor Grayson. That night, we decided to risk it all to get it. The next morning, I laid out the plan to Clara while Sophie played in the yard. Tom says, if Pine Lake Services has transactions, they'd be in the HOA office, I whispered. I'm going to break in and grab the files. Clara frowned, gripping her coffee mug. Evan, are you crazy? What if you get caught? I took her hand. I've got Tom and Maggie, we'll be careful. But Clara, if they're embezzling, this is the only way to stop them. Clara sighed, fine. But you promised to come back safe for Sophie. I called Tom and Maggie, setting a meetup that night. Tom brought a small bag flashlight, gloves and a USB for data. I've audited small firms. I know what to look for. He said, eyes sharp with resolve. Maggie held an old keyring, spare keys from when I was community secretary 10 years ago. Hope the locks haven't changed. I texted Danny Brooks, tonight we're doing something risky. If it works, I'll have big evidence. Danny replied, I didn't hear that, but if anything happens, call me fast. At 9 p.m. We parked 200 meters from the Pine Hollow Community Center, lights off. The air was freezing, breath turning to white mist. Mike, my guard, stood watch near my gate, texting silver SUV just passed, but didn't stop. I'm on it. I nodded to Tom and Maggie, let's go. Maggie unlocked the back door. The old key clanked but fit. Inside was pitch black, smelling of old paper and damp wood. We gloved up, flicked on small flashlights. Tom led to the HOA office, a tiny room down the hall. The door was locked, but Maggie found a second key that worked. Told you, she whispered, smiling. Tom dove into the desk drawers. I rifled the filing cabinet, heart hammering. Maggie guarded the door, flashlight sweeping the hall. Hurry, she urged. I found a file labeled Pine Lake Services, 2023 contract. Inside a fake invoice, Lakeside Path Maintenance, $150,000, signed by Victor, no countersignature. Tom, here, I hissed, passing it over. Tom snapped photos with his phone, then booted the desk computer. No password, amateurs, he muttered. Plugging in the USB, he downloaded bank files, scrolling fast. Got it. $150,000 from the HOA to Pine Lake Services, then to a personal account under Richard Harper. I froze. Richard Harper, Lydia's husband. Tom nodded. Yup, and more, a note. Phase 1, Lakeside land purchase. Maggie turned, eyes wide. Land purchase? What are they planning? I dug deeper, finding a handwritten letter in the drawer. Richard, pressure Carter to sell the biggest lot first. Walsh Development pays big if we secure 5 lots. Lydia, I photographed it, hands shaking. Walsh Development, real estate firm. They're forcing me and others to sell for profit. Tom finished downloading, yanked the USB. We've got it. Fake contracts, transfers, the letter. This is embezzlement and conspiracy. I stuffed the file in my bag, but headlights flashed through the window. Maggie whispered, someone's here. We killed the flashlights, ducked behind the desk. Footsteps echoed in the hall, slow, heavy. I peeked through the door crack. Victor, holding a big flashlight, checking around. Tom grabbed my arm, signaling silence. Maggie clutched the keys, face pale. Victor stopped at the office door, turned the knob, locked. He muttered something, then walked off. We waited 5 minutes, hearts pounding like drums, before daring to breathe. Let's go, I whispered. We slipped out, locked up, and ran to the car in the dark. Back home, I sent all the photos and USB to Henry Patel. Henry, we've got proof. $150,000, embezzled through Pine Lake Services, to Richard Harper. And a plan to force land sales to Walsh Development. Henry replied, "Brilliant, I'll report to the police tomorrow." "Rest up, Evan, you did it." I texted Danny, "We've got major evidence. They want to seize lakeside land." Danny responded, "Send it now, we'll nab them." I sat on the couch, Clara asleep beside Sophie in the living room. My phone buzzed, camera alert, Victor's silver SUV parked down the street, him stepping out, staring at my gate. Mike texted, "He's been there 5 minutes, then left." "Should I follow?" I replied. "No, just watch, we've got enough to take them down." I gazed at Lake Michigan moonlight reflecting. The gate wasn't just a fight anymore, it was the key exposing Lydia and Richard's scheme. With Tom, Maggie and this evidence, I wasn't just saving my land, I was saving Pine Hollow. Victor could lurk, but now I held the upper hand. The game had turned. After breaking into the HOA office and uncovering Lydia Harper and her husband Richard's plot, I knew I had a bomb that could blow them away. The evidence of Pine Lake Services, $150,000, embezzled, and the scheme to force lakeside land sales to Walsh Development, was the knockout Henry Patel had promised. But Lydia didn't let me land the punch. She called a second meeting, and this time, I decided to make it their end. That morning I sent all the files, fake contracts, transfers, the handwritten letter to Henry and Danny Brooks. Henry called right away, "Evan, we've got enough for a civil suit and police action. They're meeting tonight, let's go, we'll finish this." Danny texted, "I'll bring 2 more officers. Send me the meeting address." I also called Tom Nguyen. "Tom, can you come? We need you to break down the finances." Tom replied, "I'm ready. They won't see it coming." Clara stayed with Sophie, watching me prep with worry. "Evan, they might flip out if exposed," she said, gripping my hand. "I know," I replied, hugging her. "But I've got Henry, Danny and Tom, I'm not alone. Sophie'll be proud of her dad." Clara gave a faint smile. "Come back safe." At 7 p.m., I entered the Pine Hollow Community Center with Henry clutching the files and USB. Over 70 residents packed the room, the air taut as a wire. Lydia stood at the podium, mic in hand, Victor beside her, eyes narrowing when he saw me. Maggie Sullivan sat up front, nodding encouragement. Brad Kessler stood near the podium, face flushed, ready to attack. Lydia started, her voice sweet but icy. "Thank you all for coming. Evan Carter keeps defying the community, stirring trouble with baseless claims at the last meeting. Tonight, the board proposes a lien on his house for $200,000 in accumulated violations, gate, paint, water, everything. Who's in favor?" Brad shot his hand up, shouting, "I'm in. He's gotta pay." I stood cutting in before the crowd could react. "Hold on, don't I get to speak, Lydia? I'm a resident here." Henry stepped forward, voice firm. "I'm Carter's attorney. This meeting breaks HOA rules, no 2-week notice, making it legally void. But if you want to play, we've got something for everyone to see." Lydia slammed the podium. "This is a private meeting, outsiders don't get a say." Henry smiled thinly. "Carter's a resident, I'm his rep. And this," he held up the USB, "is what you don't want anyone to see." The crowd murmured, Brad yelling, "Sit down." But I caught a flicker of fear in Lydia's eyes. Danny Brooks walked in, 2 officers behind him, their police uniforms silencing the room. "I need everyone to see this," Danny said, taking the USB from Henry and plugging it into the projector. The vandalism video played, Lydia, Victor, Neil cutting my gate's lock. The crowd gasped. "This is your HOA president and treasurer," Danny said, "caught vandalizing private property, we're investigating." Lydia shouted, "It's a misunderstanding, we were checking community property." Henry cut her off. "Private property, Miss Harper, the county confirmed it." I held up the map Ellen Travis gave me. "The path is mine, no public easement, but I've got a question. How long have you all been paying maintenance fees for that path?" Tom stood up, his voice low but clear. "I'm an accountant. In 2023, the HOA spent $150,000 on Pine Lake Services, a company that doesn't exist. The money went straight to Richard Harper, Miss Harper's husband." He projected the bank transfer on the screen. The crowd exploded. $150,000, where's my money?" Someone yelled. Maggie added, "They raised dues 3 times in 5 years for what maintenance when no one did anything." I held up Lydia's handwritten letter. Here's the real plan. Force me and others to sell lakeside land to Walsh Development. They embezzled your money to grab land for profit. The room erupted into chaos. An old lady stood. Lydia, you said that path was ours. Brad stammered. But what about tradition? Danny stepped forward. Lydia Harper, Victor Grayson, we need to talk about vandalism and embezzlement. Come with me. 2 officers closed in, and Lydia slammed the mic on the podium. You have no right, but Danny raised a hand. We have evidence. Don't make it harder. Victor tried to bolt, but an officer blocked him. They were led out, the crowd shouting after them. Maggie patted my shoulder. You did it, Evan. Henry whispered, we won big. The police will handle the rest now. A few people, even Brad, approached me, faces sheepish. Evan, I'm sorry. I didn't know, Brad said. I nodded. It's fine, but ask this, where did everyone's money go? As I left the meeting, I saw Danny put Lydia and Victor in a squad car. A group of residents surrounded me, asking questions, thanking me. I texted Clara, they're arrested. I won. Clara replied, come home, Sophie's hero. I smiled, looking out at Lake Michigan in the distance. The gate had shaken Pine Hollow, and now the truth was out. Lydia wanted to leave my house, but in the end she locked herself behind bars. After that fateful meeting when Lydia Harper and Victor Grayson were hauled off by police, Pine Hollow woke up from a nightmare. Evan Carter, turned my gate into the spark that exposed corruption, but the story wasn't over. The evidence from the break-in, fake contracts, bank transfers, handwritten notes, took it to court, and I was determined to see justice served. 2 months later, I stood in a packed county courtroom. Henry Patel sat beside me, organizing documents. Danny Brooks was in the witness row, police uniform crisp. Maggie Sullivan and Tom Nguyen were there too, representing Pine Hollow residents, seeking fairness. Lydia, Victor and Neil Baxter sat at the defense table, faces blank, their lawyer whispering non-stop. The judge, a stern man with glasses, banged his gavel. State of Michigan versus Harper, Grayson and Baxter, embezzlement, fraud and conspiracy. Prosecution begins. The prosecutor projected evidence, the video of my gate vandalism, the $150,000 transfer from Pine Lake Services to Richard Harper's account, and Lydia's letter pressuring lakeside land sales. The defendants set up a shell company, embezzled resident funds, and conspired to seize land for Walsh Development, he said. I testified, recounting the journey from the key demand to vandalism, harassment and financial discoveries. They fined me $650 a day to force me to give up my land, I said, voice steady. But I found out they were taking everyone's money and doing nothing. The crowd of residents behind me murmured, some nodding. Lydia's lawyer countered, this is just an internal HOA dispute, not a crime. But the prosecutor held up the letter, forcing land sales for personal gain is conspiracy, not internal. Tom testified next, breaking down the finances. $150,000 vanished through Pine Lake Services, no invoices, no real work. It flowed to Richard Harper, Miss Harper's husband. Maggie spoke of unreasonable fee hikes. They charged us for 5 years with no repairs. I nearly lost my house over late dues. The crowd stirred, and the judge banged his gavel for order. Lydia's lawyer requested a sidebar with the judge. 20 minutes later he returned. Based on evidence and testimony, the prosecution files criminal charges. Lydia Harper, Victor Grayson, Neil Baxter are detained for embezzlement, fraud and conspiracy. Officers escorted them out, Lydia glaring at me, eyes blazing. This isn't over, Carter, she snarled. I stared back, silent. She'd lost. A week later, a court-appointed administrator called a community meeting. The Pine Hollow Center was packed, no longer hostile. He announced the HOA is temporarily dissolved. Lydia, Victor and Neil took a plea deal, no prison, but 500 hours of community service, and $120,000 restitution from personal assets. The crowd cheered, some shouting, serves them right. He continued, beyond the $150,000 from Pine Lake Services, we uncovered another $80,000 through other fake contracts. A total of 70% of the stolen funds will be returned to residents via audit. I looked at Maggie, who smiled. You did it, Evan. Tom added, I nominate Maggie for new HOA president. She knows the community. The crowd agreed. Maggie blushed. I'll try, but Tom's got to help with finances. Tom nodded, and residents clapped loudly. Brad Kessler approached me after the meeting, sheepish. Evan, I'm sorry. I believed Lydia. I didn't know they scammed us. I shook his hand. No worries, Brad. Now we know the truth. Another old lady hugged me. Thank you. I got back $300 they fined me for planting flowers. I laughed, relief washing over me. I texted Clara, they're sentenced. We won. 70% of the money's back. Clara called instantly. Evan, you're amazing. Sophie wants you to tell her everything. I laughed. I'll tell her when I'm home. As I left the center, Danny clapped my shoulder. You shook up Pine Hollow. Richard Harper's under investigation too. This is bigger than we thought. I drove home, Lake Michigan glinting in the afternoon sun. The gate still stood, its scratched lock telling its tale. Lydia wanted to break me, but now she paid, and Pine Hollow was healing. Maggie led a new transparent HOA, no random fines, no fake contracts. Justice didn't just come for me, it came for everyone. I opened the gate, stepped into the yard, feeling a year's weight lift off. After the trial, with Lydia Harper, Victor Grayson, and Neil Baxter facing consequences, Pine Hollow transformed. My gate, once the center of conflict, became a symbol of truth's victory. I, Evan Carter, never imagined I could change a whole community, but here I stood, savoring the peace I'd fought to reclaim. 6 months passed since that day. One spring afternoon, I sat on the porch, watching Sophie chase a ball around the yard, her laughter echoing to Lake Michigan's shimmer. Clara stepped out, carrying 2 lemonades, and sat beside me. Evan, I can't believe it ended like this, she said, smiling. You pulled off the impossible. I took her hand. Not just me. You, Sophie, Maggie, Tom, everyone. The community had changed. Maggie Sullivan, now the new HOA president, led with unprecedented openness. At last month's meeting, she announced the public lakeside path starts construction next month, better than Evan's old one, and no one's fined for it. The crowd cheered, and I laughed. Tom, vice president and accountant, negotiated with contractors, keeping costs under budget. They used the returned funds, 70% of the $230,000 embezzled, for a fishing pier, picnic area, and kayak launch. Pine Hollow was truly livable now. I walked to the gate, its scratched lock still telling its story. One day, I saw a moving truck at Lydia's old house. Her family left after the scandal, selling cheap. A young couple with 2 kids moved in, their girl waving. I love the lake, mister, I smiled, hope flooding back. The gate, once a battlefield, was now just a peaceful entry. Danny Brooks dropped by last week, updating me on the case. Richard Harper pled guilty to bribing county officials. He tied into Walsh Development to grab lakeside land. It's expanding to 3 other council members, he said, sipping a beer I handed him. You started it all, Evan. I shrugged. I just wanted to keep my gate. Who knew it'd drag this out? Danny laughed. Justice is like weeds. Pull one, find the whole root system. I got a court letter too. Lydia, Victor and Neil were doing community service, slowly repaying $120,000. One morning, I opened the mailbox and found a handwritten envelope. Inside was a thank you card, signed by dozens of residents, some locked gates, some open doors for a whole community. Thank you for being the latter. My eyes stung as I read it, texting Clara. The neighbors sent a card. I didn't expect this. Clara replied, they saw you fight for them. That night, I attended an HOA meeting, my first in years without dread. Maggie ran it, voice warm. New process, violations need photo proof, finances posted monthly, all contracts ribbed. The crowd nodded, no longer afraid. I stood to request a garden expansion, filed properly with sketches. The board approved it instantly, no objections. I smiled. The system was fair now, as it should be. Back home, I walked to my lakeside path, opened the gate, and stood gazing at the water under the moon. A year ago, I fought for this land, for Sophie, for principle. Now I saw it was bigger, about people like Maggie nearly losing her home, Tom working overtime for dues, or Brad duped into believing the path was public. Laughter drifted from afar, a barbecue at the community park. Next year, they'd have their new path, and I locked the gate, content. My phone buzzed, a text from Maggie, "Board approved your garden." "Congrats," I smiled, replying, "Thanks for everything." I went inside, saw Sophie asleep on the couch, Clara tucking her in. I sat, watching my family, then the lake beyond. The gate sparked it all, but the lesson wasn't about locks or land, it was about standing up, for myself and others. Pine Hollow was peaceful now, and so was I. The story I just retold: HOA demanded keys to my gate, so they can get to lake faster, finds cops at their door. Mirrors real issues in the US today, especially around property rights, HOA overreach, and community unity against injustice. In the modern context, many Americans, about 74 million per 2023 stats, live in HOA-governed neighborhoods, and often face harsh rules or internal corruption, like Evan Carter did in Pine Hollow. Lydia Harper and Victor Grayson, demanding Evan's gate key, escalating with absurd fines $650 daily, vandalism, red paint, cut camera wires, and job threats, reflect how some HOAs abuse power to control residents, even for personal gain, like forcing lakeside land sales to Walsh Development. This isn't far-fetched. Recent U.S. news has covered HOA lawsuits over embezzled funds or illegal fines. The takeaways from this story are specific and practical for real life in America. First, like Evan checking county records with Ellen Travis and gathering evidence, vandalism videos, fake receipts, know your legal rights and keep proof to protect yourself, crucial in a law-driven society, like the US. Second, Evan's alliance with Tom Nguyen and Maggie Sullivan shows the power of finding community allies. Don't fight injustice alone, because a collective voice like at that pivotal meeting can turn the tide. Finally, Evan's persistence despite threats to his job and family. Sophie Clara teaches that standing for what's right, even something small like a gate, can spark big change, like Pine Hollow recovering 70% of embezzled funds and building a new public path. In today's America, where individual rights and community duty intertwine, learn from Evan, know your rights, build connections, and face injustice head-on, because a locked gate today might unlock justice tomorrow. If you enjoyed my journey from a little gate to justice for all of Pine Hollow, hit subscribe so you don't miss more stories of fighting for what's right like this one. Thanks for joining me, and see you in the next video, where we'll keep opening doors to the truth.